boxes, and the results produced from those boxes, once again I am pleased to say, they matched the number of ballots in the box, number of ballots in each of those boxes, 369 total, matched the SOPs that are in the possession of the People's Progressive Party, as is reflected in the statement of recounts. So the process is moving forward. We are hoping again that we will have an acceleration of the pace of the process, as the boxes that in Region 4, as they are being counted, the fraud of Mr. Mingo is being unraveled box by box. Importantly, that list of issues which I have been speaking about from the beginning of the process was just sent to me by Commissioner Gunraj, and I presume would have been sent to all the political parties and the participants in the recount exercise. I will encourage you, members of the press, to get a copy of that document. It lists 25 issues and the decisions which the Commission has made thus far in relation to each of those issues. Once that is circulated, I believe that it will augment the pace at which the process is going, because it will eliminate unnecessary queries being made, and if those queries persist, you can have a quick resolution by a mere consultation to that or reference to that document, rather than having to go back to the Commission for a decision to be made by the Commission. Necessarily, that list of issues will be required to be updated at periodic intervals, so that the fresh issues that are arising that may not have benefited from the deliberation of the Commission will be insert into that document, and we will have a running set of issues being recorded with the resolutions made by the Commission in relation to those issues. I am disappointed in the fact that the task force has not yet met with the Commission, because, as you know, the Commission feels that they have a duty to consult with that task force in terms of going forward with the number of new stations that the Commission has indicated it is prepared to establish. Some 5 to 6 stations were mentioned, and we welcome that. But we continue to maintain that the Commission is independent. On the last occasion I spoke with you, I cited the constitutional provision, and the provision says that the Commission is not subject to the direction or advice or authority of any person or body, that the Commission is independent and the Commission is autonomous and can make its own decision. I also want to again reiterate that the judiciary enjoys the same status of the Commission, and the judiciary has, as it is entitled to do, has promulgated and crafted its own COVID protocols. The Commission has a duty to do the same, and to rely on the COVID task force is not only wrong, but the COVID task force, unfortunately, in our respectful view, is a task force that is contaminated with politicians who are not technically trained and technically sound to make the decisions of the type that they are pretending to make. So you have Mr. Harman, Ms. Lawrence, Mr. Nagamoto, and all these people being part of a COVID task force, which ought to be a task force of competent, qualified, technical personnel in the area of public health and public health management, with specific training in relation to COVID-19. And none of these persons are so qualified. So we are not surprised that they are going to be part of the stalling process, because they have been part of the stalling process. In fact, they have tried to prohibit this recount from taking place. So we are hoping we will continue to work, rather, to get the commission to appoint its own task force and formulate its own protocols and proceed to implement its agreed decision that they will have more stations established. Yesterday also, you would have witnessed two very important statements emanating from powerful quarters, one from the US Senate and one from OAS. The one from the US Senate was signed by some, I think, 5 senators, powerful people including Marco Rubio, who has responsibility for hemispheric relations in this area, this geographic sphere. And he wrote to the president complimenting him for his decision to participate in the recount, as well as they welcome his decision to, they welcome his undertaking to accept the decision or the results of the recount whenever that comes. And they, of course, stress the importance of democratic and freely elected government in this part of the world. The OAS, headed by Mr. Bruce Golding, issued a very stirring statement in which he highlighted the fraud which the OAS witnessed at Ashmin's building, particularly the fraud perpetrated by Mr. Mingo, and he used some very colorful adjectives to describe the process. He says that it's the most transparent effort he has seen at trying to contaminate an election. Unfortunately, the government came out in heavy criticism of Mr. Golding. But, you know, Golding is, first of all, Mr. Golding is an internationally recognized statesman, and that is why he was chosen by an organization as prestigious and as important as the OAS. The OAS is an umbrella body representing or constituting over 35 independent states. They chose Mr. Golding because of his standing and because of his integrity. And what did Golding say? Golding said what he observed. He headed an observation team that was present in Ashmin building when the fraud was perpetrated. It's no secret that the fraud was perpetrated. I witnessed it. You were outside. Dozens of people witnessed it. And as I keep saying, it was done in a glass room. Who were not in the room could have seen it from outside the room. So I don't know why the government is offended by what Mr. Golding said. Mr. Golding could have not said anything other than what he said. He has a duty to report what he observed. And I don't understand why the Congress place should do some introspection and try to understand why they acted so carelessly. You can't want to commit election thievery in the public's eye. And when the public speak about it, or the observation team speaks about it, you are offended. Mr. Golding would have been in dereliction of his duty had he not said what he said. So the attack on him by Mr. Harman must be denounced, because Guyana is, as you know, geographically is not an island, neither is it politically an island. And politics is about allied forces, it's about the conglomeration of forces. And this government, this cabal, is picking fight with the entire world. The Canadian embassy, the British embassy, the American embassy, the Carter Center, every single person. And what are these people saying? All they are saying is that the elections results tabulation process of Region 4 was farce and a fraud. And that is the truth. They can't say anything else. It's not about supporting the PPP. I see Harman making some allegation about a friendship between Mr. Jagdev and Mr. Golding. You think Mr. Golding will put his entire reputation on the line? You think Mr. Golding will put the OAS reputation on the line because of some alleged friendship with Mr. Jagdev? Mr. Golding is not such an irresponsible person as far as I'm aware. So, you know, It's unfortunate that the government is reacting this way, but I guess when your back is against the wall, you make erratic and eccentric decisions and utterances, and you saw an example of that. So I will pause here and invite your questions if you have any.
Mr. Nandlall, why aren't your calls for introspection being directed towards GCOM? Because Mr. Bowling's criticisms were against Mingo as an officer of GCOM. And secondly, on the COVID measures, you are suggesting a task force and whatnot. Have your views been ever translated into a formal motion at the commission level? Because we do have frequent meetings.
Yes. Let me deal with the first question first. I agree that the accusation, or rather the scrutiny, should be at GCOM. And you would recall that from day one, I have been saying that. I have been saying that Mingo was an agent of GCOM. He was selected by GCOM. He was exercising the authority of GCOM. He was performing the functions of GCOM. And therefore GCOM is bound by what Mingo did, and should take the requisite actions at the appropriate time. It is against that backdrop that I've repeatedly invited GCOM itself, starting from the chairperson, the commissioners, the CEO, and the DCO, to come to this podium and explain and defend GCOM's processes, because they are under siege and attack in the Recount process and elsewhere. But I cannot also turn a blind eye to the fact that Mingo was not acting alone. Mingo was obviously executing the political agenda of a political party, which political party continues to fight for the embrace of Mingo's declaration. So I agree with you. I was narrow in my focus, but thank you for allowing me to expand it, to bring in GCOM as well. The second point is whether it is not going to be the subject of a formal motion. We were given the impression that the task force would have come here already, and against our better impression, our better judgment, because we expressed our displeasure from the time they said that they're going to act upon the advice of the task force. We said that that is not acceptable. But we gave GCOM the benefit of the doubt, and again we are being vindicated by the task force's non-response, or failing to respond in an efficient way. You will recall that we had a meeting, or we were supposed to have a meeting with GCOM. That is one of the issues on the agenda. We were asked yesterday to defer that meeting because the chairperson said that she would like to meet with the task force yesterday and with GCOM, and then she would meet with us. We felt that that was a very constructive approach, because that meeting is more important than our meeting. In fact, that meeting will address some of the very issues that we want guidance on. So we deferred, and we said, yes, go ahead and hold those meetings, and we will wait. So those meetings apparently, well, the meeting with the COVID task force, as far as I'm aware, was not held, and we will have to get guidance on whether we should wait again, or whether we should, our meeting should proceed.
Mr. Anil, you're suggesting direct collusion between GCOM and the incumbent administration. You're saying also that the statements yesterday were more or less validated the PPP's position on this Mingo statement.
Yes.
You're, from the beginning of this Recount process to now, there are litany of complaints daily. Why still have faith in GCOM then to complete this process in a transparent and fair manner?
We have, because we have worked hard to arrive at this position where we are. We worked hard and tirelessly in negotiating the terms of this recount. We had an input from CARICOM. 5 heads of state came here. We had to go through an order to work out the modalities and the procedures. That took nearly 3 months. So what is going on here is partially our efforts as well as GCOM, because we worked every step of the way, and that's why we have faith in the system. And that is why our faith is being vindicated and justified every day, because the results that the recount exercise is producing is coinciding with the figures that we have, and we know where the ballots cast on March the 2nd.
What are your views then on the order, the aspect of the order which says that the commission at the end of this recount process will ultimately decide on whether to accept the results? That taken with Mr. Inzanali's statement yesterday that the president would be sworn in accordance with the law.
Who said that? Inzanali?
Ray Inzanali.
Oh.
The ambassador.
Well, the president, let us deal with Inzanali's statement. A president in a lawful process can only be sworn in accordance with law. So Inzanali did not say anything profound or anything out of the ordinary. That position there is, we objected to that formulation of language. We felt that the results should move once the results of the recount should with automaticity form part of Lowenfield's report and present it to the commission. That formulation of language did not appear in the final order, unfortunately. But I cannot imagine that after GCOM would have participated in every step of this process, and this is a GCOM-driven process, with all the commissioners here every single day with the chairman, supervising the process, manning the process, having complete and exclusive control of the process. I can't imagine that an organization in such a circumstance will not consider itself bound to accept the results produced by the process.
What happens if that does not happen? Because GCOM
that is a bridge.
Everything you just said, preparation was
Yes.
more for the actual election. And those declarations are basically in against right now.
Yes. We will cross that bridge when we reach it. We have crossed many, many more substantial hurdles. And we are going to cross that bridge when we reach it. It's not something that is not under consideration.
Mr. Nandlall, at what stage...
My friend, good morning.
I have no friends already.
You get defensive already. Yes, Dennis.
At what stage did the PP recognize that they did not favor the language of the order that provides for the commission first to decide whether it should accept the use of the data by the CEO to submit a report to the said commission?
You know that order went through various metamorphoses, various incarnation, and came out with language missing and language. When it surfaced the first time, we objected. Then there was a merger of so many versions because the commission was operating with three versions of an order. One emanating from the PVP, one from the government, and one from Mr. Lowenfield. And as discussions were going ahead, they were cutting and pasting. When that original formulation surfaced, I distinctly recall we expressed our misgivings about it. Somehow or the other, it was overtaken by more important issues. Because, in a negotiation, important issues attract greater import and attract greater time than others. So we had to fight off an audit being held. We had to fight off no live streaming. We had to fight off ban on cell phone. We had to fight off no observers. So those were fundamental issues. And this one here may have unfortunately fell through the crack. But as I said, we will cross that bridge when we reach it.
Is there a legal piece of board you can use to cross the bridge?
We are a lawful people. This is a lawful country. And once we are governed by the rule of law, legal recourse is always an avenue available to every citizenry. I hope that we don't reach a day in this country when legal recourse would not be available.
If they were to go ahead with that provision of the order, can it be challenged legally? Will it be challenged legally?
We will cross that bridge when we reach it. And you always have an inside track to me.
Well, I think the point is that...
Well, it would be premature for me to predict the options that we have available.
Mr. Nandlall, to say that this one fell through the cracks, I mean, the PVP had a lot of lawyers in its team, and this before would have been through a lot of eyes. Why commit to a process that is not definitive at the end?
My friend, when you are in a negotiation and you don't control the negotiating machinery, you have to work with compromises. You understand? And in life, life is built upon compromises. Your marriage is built on compromise. I'm sure you don't accept everything, but there are things that you are prepared to live with, because this is not a perfect world.
In hindsight, you think this was a major oversight?
No, I don't think this is a major oversight. I continue to maintain that no reasonable commission that manages a process exclusively will at the end of the process not accept the results of the process, because it is the commission's process.
But Ms. Nandlall, at the end of the day, when a decision is to be taken, we will have two results, Ms. Nandlall's declaration and the results from the
And there is a mechanism by which there's a mechanism provided by the Constitution by which GCOM makes decisions. It's by votes. You have three, and you have a chairman with a casting vote. That is how the commission was constructed, specifically for the reason of breaking these kinds of deadlock if they arise. Fortunately, they will not arise, because I can't see how Mingo report can be elevated to any respectable station in any equation, because it's replete with fraud, and fraud unravels everything in law.
Mr. Nandlall, earlier you spoke about the issues and resolutions being submitted, and you said you had a copy. Could you say what were the primary issues highlighted by the Commission, and if the PPP is satisfied with the resolutions to those issues?
I don't have my phone. It's a long set of issues, but it's issues that we have been speaking about all the time. For example, what is to be recorded in the observation report? All the observations. Should a ballot box not be counted because of some objection? No. Every ballot must be counted. If a mark is not in the box next to the party symbol, that ballot should be counted. Yes, once it's closest to a particular party symbol than any other. Those are the types of decisions that I'm talking about.
You're satisfied?
Yes, because we have been working on the floor in the building with GCOM to control, to resolve these things, because most of them are in the law, they are in GCOM's training manual, and they are based upon common sense. So we have had a good rapport with GCOM. Not us alone, all the other parties. They have issues too. And they have been meeting with the Commission at periodic intervals, and the Commission has been meeting almost daily in trying to arrive at these issues, resolutions of them. But we are thankful that we have reached a stage where we can have a glossary of them now, so that they can guide us with greater expediency in the future.
Mr. Nandlall, isn't the PPP worried about its level of overconfidence should the coalition produce tangible data, say immigration records, to show that some people actually voted in the names of those immigrants, and probably deceased persons as well, in say some of your strongholds? Aren't you preparing for that possibility?
Well, Dennis, as I said, I can only comment on the proceedings that are in progress. You want me to speculate in the future. When those challenges, if they actually arise, we will cross them, and I will speak to you about them. But I prefer not to speculate and to add more fuel to the propaganda being spread by the APNU AFC.
It is not a matter of propaganda. It's a matter.
I know. I am interpreting it as propaganda.
They saying.
I know what they're saying. Trust me, Dennis. I'm familiar with it. I am classifying it as propaganda because I am not seeing any empirical evidence to support it, and that's why I'm calling it political propaganda. I may be wrong, but at this stage I'll maintain my terminology.